Hi, everyone. Hi, my wonderful, beautiful, unique, one-of-a-kind co-host, Corrine Mooney, all the way from Arizona, and myself here from Sweden. It's cold here. But anyway, welcome everybody. And today we have Wednesday, February 5th in the US and Europe, and Thursday, February 6th in Australia. I keep saying that, right? So we currently just have Bob taking a break. We announced we're going to be back with Bob Eden, the Spiritual Mechanic Show. So I'm keep on repeating that. But now you are watching the Cosmic Sister Show with hosts Corinne and Anne. And we are coming to you with a four-part series discussing and digging deep into the four agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, the spiritual guide based on ancient Toltec wisdom. It outlines four key principles to achieve personal freedom and a fulfilling life. It's so easy and it's so wonderful. It may sound over the top easy, but we can use it. Actually, that's the key, right? Using it in daily life. So today we are going to talk about part four of four parts, right? Always do your best. Plus highlights from the third agreement last week, because we had some internet stuff we assumed we wouldn't have, right? So
Correct.
last week we talked about don't make assumptions. So we're going to bring out the highlights from last week and talk about today's full four agreement, part four. Always do your best. And you can always find us at angelplaceonearth.com/cosmic guardians and on Facebook, of course, facebook.com/cosmic guardians. And why not dive directly straight into today's topic?
Sounds good to me. Yes. Yes. Um, it was interesting because I love the way when we decide we're going to do a podcast that the universe gives me the opportunity to have an experience before we do the podcast. And I had said last week how uh, I do things routinely, and I have when I send the notes to you, I have the notes printed out on my printer. Well, I knew my
Yeah,
printer was not printing, so I went ahead and did everything. I went and I got up the next morning and looked, and my printed notes were not there because I had assumed that, like always, they would be there. So then I
yeah,
went looking for my handwritten notes and realized that the day before I had decided that I didn't need to keep the handwritten notes anymore, tore them up, and threw them in the garbage. And then on top of that, I decided to clean, and I took the garbage, my little garbage can, and dumped it in the big garbage can, realizing an hour before podcast that I had no notes. So I went looking through the garbage can, couldn't find them, came back in, started trying to remember the things that I wanted to put on there, and so forth and so forth. And we started the show, and then, the universe intervened. However, after I finished speaking with you, I looked in the little garbage can, which I had assumed was empty because I had emptied it, and there
yeah.
sat my notes. So,
Mm,
so assuming if I had been someone to take it personally, I would have gotten really upset because I
yes.
had assumed that they were where I thought they would be. So it's amazing how we keep having experiences to have the opportunity to use these things.
Yeah, and I think I have my share of assumptions too. I have a very good thing. I forget things. I just kind of release them and leave them behind. If I would listen to watch the video, I would probably, because when I lost you, try to keep on talking, right? Just to cover a few things. But anyway, we make assumptions also, and many times I think the conclusion for us was that without even thinking about it, it's not that obvious all the time, right? So it's
Correct.
a good thing to monitor yourself.
Yes, it is. And there's some things that we need to always have. We've learned something and we assume that when we see something sitting on a stove, it's going to be hot. That's a good assumption. But when we assume that someone we see is saying something that we just told them, this is not a good assumption. When we make an assumption that our partner knows what we're talking about, this is not
Yeah,
a good way to be. And unfortunately, our assumptions sometimes are gathered on little bits of information, mixing it up with past experiences, and even mixing it up with people's gossip. And
yeah,
so then we really are not forming assumptions that are based in truth, like the stove is hot. That is a truth.
yeah.
And we can really get into a lot of misunderstandings, but we know how to help you resolve these things.
Yeah, and I think last week we did assume we would have great internet without really.
Yes, we did.
Yes, you could say taking it for granted, but it's interesting with assumptions because um, when I have an assumption about something, I come from my own experience, right?
Hmm.
What I think I know about things, and it's
Yes,
often in here as well because it's based on what I know. I have walked through or done or experienced in one way or another, right? But it
yes,
doesn't mean that the other person has the same, and they are not going to because they are not me and I'm not them.
yes.
So uh, I don't remember if we stated this last week, but it's so funny because I usually love to bring up Mercury retrograde because I'm a little bit sensitive to that. But I always also say that we can work with any energy, not fighting against it because that is not going to come.
Resolve it. No.
Um, no, 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 because it's a planet, it's energy, it's nothing that I have control over, right? Like anything else. But it's basically the same thing because Mercury retrograde is about communication, right? And we think about that. At least I think very carefully about that. I notice it at that time.
Hmm.
But it's the same thing during life. So if we make assumptions that say something that's not very, very clear to someone, and I assume that my statement that they understood, they're going to call me back. But they didn't take it as that. So they didn't call me back, right?
Yes.
And then it's common for people to get angry or, saying things or thinking things and adding on to that. But, if we pay attention to when we are making assumptions, or if we want to come across with something to someone else and we really want them to understand what we have been saying as we intended it from
Hmm.
our side, we can make life very easy.
Yes. And realizing that when we were children, we were programmed with certain assumptions that other people had that were forming of us. Oh, you're cute. Oh, boys don't cry. Oh, you're very slow. Uh, I can remember my aunt, who I really respected, always saying, "Well, you have a hard time in school, so you really shouldn't try to be anything more than this or that." And limiting my dreams because of her assumption. And
Yeah,
I was fed that so much that that became a part of me. So when I went to make a decision about things, that little thing would be in the back of my head saying, well, you really struggle with this, so maybe you shouldn't do that. And
Yeah,
when we have these things that are coming into our life, these are bases that we try to make decisions with. So we use them in the now. And instead of falling into the patterns that we have been taught, this is where the beauty of not making assumptions comes in, because we can break that
yeah,
connection. And just as you say, by asking the person you're speaking to, was I clear?
yeah,
Or the other person saying, if I understand what you are saying, it is this, and repeating it back to you, that allows you to say, well, what I really meant was this. Will you be able to call me at 6 o'clock? Not just saying 6 o'clock would be a good time. Being precise and clear. And the misunderstandings that we get when we assume that what we're seeing is the real thing. Like you
yeah,
see two friends talking and you assume that they're talking about something you told your friend, and you don't want that friend to tell anyone else. So then you start getting all nervous about it, and you start making these assumptions that she's betraying you, or he's not going to call you because you didn't say this. And you can eliminate so many heartaches
yeah.
when we start working with this particular agreement.
Exactly. And there are also old-fashioned sayings sometimes, because my mom used to say something. When it's raining manna from heaven, the
Yes,
poor person doesn't have a spoon. That is,
exactly.
also telling yourself that there's no way that you can achieve anything either.
Exactly.
Stay where you are, right?
My grandmother's great one was, the rich cannot get through the needle, and the poor, we just came to suffer. We're taught these things, and we wonder why we don't have a better relationship with money. And I use the word relationship
Exactly.
because when you have a loving relationship with the energy of money, and you see money as a friend, you don't see it as something that only certain people get, or that you have to work really hard for it, or that you have to be earn it and be worthy of it. Your relationship with money becomes fluid, and it's
Yes,
just energy. But we use our past stories, and they're more than stories. They're what has been placed in us from a very young age, when we could not decipher, is this good for me or is this not good for me? So now as
exactly.
an adult, you get that chance.
Yes, as you could call it programs. It's like we are programmed in certain ways. And this journey are putting us on a path where we are to question those programs. Does this align to me?
Yes,
Do I
yes,
understand this? Is this true for me? If it's true for me and I want to have more money in my life, because basically money is just an energy, it's a piece of paper. Now we are almost into the cards, right?
yes,
And digital stuff, but it's still energy. It's nothing more than energy.
exactly. And Don Luis has a really good way, the way that the Toltec looked at it, as a newborn has to be domesticated. It has to learn what is acceptable for where it's born into. What are the customs? What is respected? It's like if you're training a dog and you train the dog to come at a certain whistle, it's confused when you make a different whistle and it doesn't come, and then you get mad at the dog because it didn't perform that way. But as children, we are taught certain ways of doing things and certain mindsets, and As I said, little boys don't cry. Little girls are supposed to be pretty and helpless. These are things that we are indoctrinated with. And
Yeah,
as we get older and then we realize these are not working,
yeah,
that's when we need to start looking at these things and saying, this needs to be modified, this needs to be eliminated.
yeah.
And
And something else. You are an adult now. You're not supposed to be childish. I'm not
oh,
ever going to abandon my that part
oh,
of me. Oh no.
no. And it's when I refer to that, people say, well, you're acting childish. And I said, no, I am acting childlike,
Yes.
because I am going to retain enthusiasm and awe and wonder and excitement. I am still going to get excited when I see a little earthworm crawl across the ground. And I'm going to be so happy that that earthworm is going to be fertilizing and aerifying all of my plants. I'm not going to be, Ugh, I don't have time for that. Be childlike. Always carry that childlike innocence and enthusiasm.
Yes. And it brings more fun stuff into your life, to be honest, because we
Oh,
can
yeah.
see through the lens of our inner child,
Right.
right? Mhm.
And in
Coming back
re-
to basics. Sorry, go
yes,
ahead.
yeah, in relationships, um, women are more tendency to do this, and I'm sure men do it too. But they find someone that almost has all of the little checks on their list of what is going to be the perfect person.
Yeah,
And they assume that they can influence this person to change and become what they want.
yeah,
When you start doing that, you are not being honest with yourself and you're not being honest with the other person. And if you were really honest, you would say, this is a behavior that I know that I'm not going to be able to be happy with, and it's going to cause irritation. And rather than say, well, I love him enough and he loves me enough that he will change or she will change.
yeah,
Why not
exactly.
have the courage to say, this really isn't going to work, and I'll either accept this person as what they have and enjoy the traits that they do have and not have to have that particular thing, or walk away from the relationship, because eventually that relationship will collapse.
Yeah, it will. And I have another good assumption for you.
Yes.
So, we assume, and I grab this out of all the people I've been talking to. So when it comes to soul connections, there are so many um, etiquettes on that, right? How we, if it's going to be a twin flame or a soulmate or whatever it is, I call everything soul connection, and we have different energy with our
Yes.
soul connections, right?
Yes.
But people very often assume that because I meet someone I have a connection with in this sense, that's going to be pink and roses and hearts,
Yeah.
nothing else. No struggle, no nothing, right? But it doesn't really function that way. It's not, we don't meet to mess each other up, but it's the same rule that applies to those
Yes.
relationships, right? Because
Yes.
even if we have a deep soul connection, we are incarnated here, and maybe we are not here as physical people incarnated on the same level, even if we can sense the soul connection. Does
Yes.
that
And
make
remember,
sense?
and remember it. Yes. It's interesting because a lot of the uh, philosophies that I've been reading will say that if there's all that excitement and flutter, 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 and oh my gosh, I can't wait, and everything else, that is not the person you really should be with. The person that you really should be with is the person where you have an understanding, where you're calm, where you can be yourself with. That is a truer connection than all of the hormonal excitement. And believe me, I understand that. I've had my heart flutter and gone into stupidity, and we've all had our share of that. And yet I've found that my strongest relationships are the ones where I can have that communication, have that understanding, know that if I really need some assistance, they will be there. Um, and when you build a relationship on that, and then it becomes a physical relationship, it is so much stronger
Yeah,
because
it is.
then you can get into the Kundalini energy where you are moving energy as well as just having, and we're going to be talking about that in our relationship class. But getting past that's why they talk about the honeymoon period, where it's just,
Yeah.
oh, I can't wait, da, 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 da. And after that you look at each other and go, okay, this isn't work anymore, so I need to go and get a little flutter somewhere else. And you haven't found your real true mate if you're
No,
basing it on
because
that.
there is the fluttering, and that's kind of a chemistry that is more earth-bounded, right? It's
Yes.
more here. It's a biological thing many
And it's
times.
exciting, you
Yeah,
know.
it is exciting, and it's great. And I had that too in my life. Of course,
Yeah.
it's great. But if you want something long lasting, that part is going to slowly come into something of, you could express it as normality on a daily basis. That's
Mhm.
not going to happen for a very long time. You need to work on the relationship to come to the place where you feel the companionship, because that's what
Yes.
most people are looking for. I have that question a lot too.
Yes. And and I think that kind of leads us into the next agreement. To
Yeah, can
all
I just make,
oh yeah.
I just want to make some advertisement for you here. So, Kareen will have two workshops coming in February and beginning of March. The Four Agreements workshop is on February 23rd,
Mhm.
and the couples play date is on March 2nd. And
Yes.
everything is going to happen in Mesa, Arizona. So, if you are in the area or close by and you want to join, it's a great time to book. It's going to be small classes because Kareen wants to keep it, natural and nice and not stressful and anything. That's going to be great. You can find Kareen at liquidenergyhealing.com. You can call her at 480-250-1815, or you can email her at lqenergy@yahoo.com. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And now I was thinking that it segued right into the fourth agreement, which is always do your best.
Yes,
Because when you do your best, whatever that best is, uh, you know that you have given everything that you could possibly do. And there again, universe gave me an opportunity. And when I was going to my physical therapy last week, I knew that physically I wasn't going to be able to do everything that they wanted me to do as rambunctiously as I had been because I just wasn't feeling good. But I still did everything I could do to the best of my ability. And I felt very confident that I had done what my body would allow me to do that particular day. And that's all we can really ask of ourselves when we give what we can do in that particular moment. And in a relationship, giving what we can do. Um,
yeah,
living the four agreements. We do the best we can each day, but as we both have admitted, we are very human, and we
Yeah, we
still,
are.
you know, it's wonderful to be able to participate in the experiment of being human.
Yeah, and I always love to say the stubborn person, and that's bringing me forward. But
Yes,
sometimes, we need to realize that maybe it's better taking a step back, or when we do our best, who determines
that's it.
what is our best, right?
Ex-
Who
ex-
determines that? That's a
exactly.
great question, isn't it?
Yes, because in our domestication or our programming, we are taught at a very young age that there is something or someone that is above us that decides whether we are a good little girl or a good little boy or a bad girl
Exactly.
or a good boy. We have a judge, and that judge is either going to say, yes, you were a very good little girl, and now you get this reward, or you were a very bad little girl, and you're going to be punished. This has already been set up in our psychic. So we're constantly determining what we do by what that judge might say. And
Yeah.
and yeah.
So, in other words, you could say that we are our worst judges sometimes, right? Because we
Oh, yes.
push ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And how I can manage something one day doesn't mean I may be able to perform less or more the
Correct.
next day, right?
Exactly. Yes. I had a wonderful example. I like I said, the universe loves. We're playmates. It's like, okay, what are you going to show me today that I'm going to get to experiment with? And I was asked to do a talk on the four agreements for this group of very prestigious ladies. Now, I knew that this group, everybody was going to come with their hair coiffured, their nails done, the shoes that matched the outfit. It was going to be perfect because that was the group. Well, that particular morning, I woke up with allergies so bad, my eyes were tearing. There's no way I could put makeup on. And if a redhead doesn't put on makeup, you don't see their face at all. However, I knew that I had this obligation and I was going to do my best. So my hair was coiffured, my outfit was beautiful, and my shoes matched my outfit, but my face was au naturel. So when they introduced me, everyone in the group, I heard them go, you know, and I could hear their comments about, what is this? And I said, ladies, today this is my best, and went on explaining that. And when you realize that, I could have forced myself to put makeup on, which my eyes would still be running. I would be miserable and I would have been unable to really make it through the talk. And I chose to accept that my best was no makeup. And when we do this, it's not giving up, it's not pushing forward. But when we're recuperating, like you did, Anne, from that accident you had, some days your best were this, and some days they were better.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
and to be determined that you're going to do your best without saying, I'm going to do my bestest, 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 and hurting your body, your soul, your mind. This
Yes.
is what this is about. It's not giving up or doing less than. It's just
No.
saying, hey,
I adapted a statement actually. I twisted it to fit myself a little bit because I love to do that. Stubbornness. So I started to say, I do what I have I do what I can with what I currently have, and
Exactly.
I'm looking forward. So
Yes.
there are always going to be days when we can't accomplish. Maybe if we're going slowly and we're going straight forward like this, and then we may have a dip. That's okay. That's perfect too. Like you want to say, love to say, right? We are perfectly imperfect.
Absolutely. And celebrate that, because it is, believe it or not, the imperfections are what build character and also
Yeah.
make us characters too. But that's the spice of life. And if you are constantly the same, you're no different than an AI. You're programmed to dot da dot da dot da dot da dot da dot. There is no compassion. There is no emotion. There is no adventure. And this is extremely boring. I am not at all adhering to that kind of a life.
No, because we are not robots and we are humans, and that's a part of our humanity, isn't it?
Yes, and that's the beauty about being human.
Yes.
And the beauty about the four agreements, it's not do this or um, not do this. It is at this particular moment. Again, I'm going to talk about living in the present moment. At
Yeah,
this particular moment, I am being the best I can be. I mean, for me to compare myself, I've climbed the ladder of life a little bit. And what I did 20 years ago, I am not capable of accomplishing at this time.
yeah.
I'm in the process of changing my mind, and I will accomplish those things, but each accomplishment that I have will be the best that I can do at that present time.
That's great. Because I think it's also common to compare oneself with
Uh,
others, right? For me, that is the same thing as we say that, okay, um, I'm being put in a box and I have assumptions and expectations directed to me, right? And
mhm.
about me, and maybe about myself and directed from myself, right? It's the same thing. If I compare myself, we are all unique, which means that if 500 people accomplish something in one way because they were successful in that way, doesn't mean that we have the same path towards it. Doesn't
Uh-huh.
mean we can't, but we have our own way of doing it, right?
Yes. And you notice how the judge came up, the
Yeah,
judge, and we are harder on ourselves, like you said, than anyone else. And we judge that I'm not good enough. I can't do this, so I've got to be better. And there's nothing wrong with striving to accomplish something. If
no,
it
it's a good
is
thing.
if it is done each day as you do your best. And it's interesting. And you put it up on the screen. I appreciate that. And it reminded me. Uh, this young man went to the master and said, Master, if I meditate for 8 hours a day, how long will it take for me to reach enlightenment? And the master said, maybe 10 years. And he says, But master, what if I meditate 8 hours a day? How long will it take? And the master says, 20 years. And the young man says, Well, why is it going to take longer if I meditate more? And the master said, You did not come here to suffer. You
Yeah,
came here to live and to love, and as I like to say, to laugh. Um,
yes,
so denying our living in order to achieve what we think is the goal we are not living. We're losing everything
Yeah,
because we have a false master, so to speak.
exactly. And you could state that in a different way also, because living life in this world and doing things and being here, living your life means that you are being mirrored all the time. So it's actually a faster way of finding out things about yourself. If I will go to the mountaintop and sit there, sometimes I do wish to be there for a day or two or a few hours, right? Just
Yes,
to get away from the hustle and bustle of the world. But um, in the long term, it's not going to bring that much because, yes, we need to go within and listen, hear ourselves, and find that part, but we also need to be here.
yes,
We chose to be here.
yes. And I saw a beautiful sign that said, "The purpose of life is to live it." You know, we
Yeah.
forget to live it because we set a goal that we have to achieve. And I'm asking people, are the goals that you set your goals, or are they the assumption of other people of what you should do? Because when you go after what your heart desires, yes, you'll have bumps and you'll have learning curves and things like that, but it's going to produce satisfaction and joy. It's not going to produce frustration and aggravation. And the thing about going back to the judge, anytime there's a judge, it's either reward or punishment.
Yeah.
And our society praises work, 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 work. And we live in that example of if you're not complying to the norm, then there is something that is not correct with you. And I see all these things. It doesn't get on mainstream very much, but you see these wonderful young people that are coming up with solutions to improve everything around us, from gathering uh, garbage to dissolving plastic to creating ways of healing, and they're not put out in the public. We don't have anything to aspire to other than the go to work, get it done. This is what you were
Yeah.
raised for. Your father's a lawyer, you're going to be a lawyer. Your grandfather was a lawyer, da 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 da. But what if that person wanted to create masterpieces? Life would be lost if we do not have the beauty.
It would be lost. And, many times we consider what the world is telling us that is appropriate or not what we feel within us, or doing things that are coming from our passion and talents and what we are really good at, because maybe that's not considered to be enough, right?
Yes. I've been listening to a lot of Bernie Brown, and she's incredible. I've picked up some of her books, and I'm getting very interested in her way of looking at life. And one of the things that she says, and listen to this, it takes courage to rest and play in a world where exhaustion is a status symbol.
Yeah, exactly. She's correct.
You know?
And that's it. Because each and every time, if we think about a timeline in historic times, right? We had different ideas, different opinions. They are ideas and opinions, and what is what you should do and shouldn't do, and things of that nature. That's not going to bring us the best from ourselves, right? So
No.
basically, we are in a good time right now, even if the world looks a little bit crazy. It does.
But we're at that time where everything is coming to a point where we're going to make decisions that are going to be grand. They're going to be, are we going to evolve this direction or this direction? The Navajo in Arizona, and I have actually seen this. I was privileged to see it, and you have to be taken up there with an elder. And on the hieroglyphics, it shows a picture of people that are planting corn and little children around them. And it shows the line going like this. And then there comes a time where the line goes like this, and then the line stops. And what that meant was that we are at this point where, as a society, we can decide whether compassion, understanding, art, music, uh, laughter are going to be the divine human, or is it going to be the robotic human? We are
Yeah.
at that time where we are now making a decision.
Yeah.
What is it that we really want to have in our humanity?
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm someone, I always love technology. I love it. I
I do
just
too,
love it. I go
as a
crazy about it.
tool.
Exactly. And I wanted to come to that. But I'm using it. I'm not letting it use me.
Correct. Correct.
So it is a great tool, but
Yes,
who is in command? Who is in command?
exactly. And the more and more that I am seeing people doing their best and moving beyond the limitations that they have told us that we have as a human. And this is where doing your best is not striving for somebody else's idea, but striving for your own personal excitement, your own personal adventure.
Yeah.
And that doing your best, I had an opportunity to see this show where this woman was a marathon runner in Australia. And while she was running the marathon, a flash fire started, and 90% of her body was burned.
Oh,
And she survived. And over the time, all the skin grafts that they had to do, I mean, they literally had to remake her face, her arms, and part of her hands didn't survive, and her legs. So, skin grafts over 90% of her body. And she had a beautiful support group. The person that her partner, he really loved her soul. He didn't love the outer shell. And he stayed
yeah.
with her through everything and all the support that she had. So she always wanted to run, and she determined she was going to do it again. And every day she did her best, whatever it was. And eventually, after about a year, she ran her first marathon. So doing her best, but it was her dream. It was not somebody
Yes.
else's dream.
Yeah.
When we do our best to become our best, this is where the beauty comes in. This is where we become the most incredible human beings, unique and perfectly imperfect.
Yes. And
And that, yeah,
unstoppable. Unstoppable.
unstoppable, unstoppable. And use that determination to overcome things, but not to the point of exhausting who we are.
Exactly. Because we are the creators. We are the infinite beings. We are creating things. And
Yes,
we also have been taught, and we talked about this before. Maybe I'm stepping a little bit outside the topic, but
always.
always, right? But we, because we are infinite beings, we have been taught to ask for things. We pray for things. We affirm, but not as we are creating it. someone is going to bring it to us from the outside.
Yes.
But that is not true, actually, because we are infinite beings and we can create and we are the creators. So we claim it for ourselves
Yes.
without putting out too much pressure, right? But we claim it and we know that we can manifest it. Greg Braden talked about this, didn't he?
Yes. And we talk about, yes, what we do in our life and the choices that we make allow us to live out those choices. However, we can change our minds. And this is sometimes people don't realize that we can change our minds. We can change how we love ourselves.
Yes,
We can change how we see other things, our perception, our perspective. We can eliminate the things from our life that don't work, like the rich shall, inherit the earth, and the poor will always be poor. We can eliminate those things, but we've got to do the shadow work. We've got to do the best we can by allowing ourselves to not be afraid to say, okay, this is the pattern that I've started. How do I make a change in that? And when
exactly. And
yeah,
yeah, sorry, go ahead. I get
no,
eager.
no, no, please talk. Please talk.
No, it's getting out of all those programs, you know. Living
Yes,
a conscious life in the present moment also means that, okay, I encounter this thing. I am assumed to do something about it in the way that people normally do it, but it doesn't align with me.
correct.
That's exactly where we know, okay, I'm not talking about crossing lines and borders being mean or anything. I'm talking about just normal things, right?
Hmm.
But right there and then, we are encountering a perfect moment to make a conscious choice. And it's not going on automated programs that we have been taught. It's about deciding for yourself, making a new choice. And the good news is that many times people, say that, well, I chose this in the past and I can't choose something else now. Well,
Yes,
I say that's not true because we can always make new choices. Always,
exactly.
always, always.
And the excuse of, well, that's just who I am. Well, then you go be who you am somewhere else, because I don't want to be with the I am you are. you know it's interesting because and I'm going to get off the subject too, but I think this needs to be brought up at this time. um, when we were talking about the power of words and the
Yeah,
intent behind the words, and while I was at my exercise place, I overheard two therapists, and they were talking about how, and what was the expression they used? Not ugly words, but when people put people down, and it really, to me, I changed the word to hateful. But how people will say things and they think they're going to encourage someone by putting them down. And they were
yeah.
discussing,
Oh,
should a coach be talking to a child that way? Well, no. But should the sports writers talk about the players in this way? And I really, I couldn't help myself. And I said, do you realize the power of a word? And at the Heart Math Institute in California, they proved that if you have plants and you have harmonious music, and you have conversations that are uplifting, the plants thrive and they vibrate. And when you put them in a place where there is negative language, they're going to die.
yeah,
Part of what we do, and this is with the four agreements, is the negative talk that we do with ourselves. Be impeccable with your speech. And when you
Exactly.
get up and you look in the mirror and you go, "Oh, that pimple is really going to be, bad today," rather than saying, "Well, that's going to be interesting. I'm going to get a lot of attention." You know, changing it, because how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to others. And that's why that was the first agreement. Be
Yes,
impeccable with your speech. And
yes,
when you are, then you have a tendency to not take things personally.
exactly.
And when you don't take things personally, you don't start making assumptions about things. And when you do your best at working with all of these things in a mindful way, hey, freedom.
Yeah, freedom. And that's also can be applied to you always do your best because you're trying to manage these things consciously,
Right.
right?
And that way you're going to eliminate the judge. And when you eliminate the judge, there is no punishment. So,
Exactly. And when we're doing our best, my best effort for today, for instance, I can come from myself. That varies from moment to moment, right? Depending on my circumstances and my energy
exactly.
levels and whatever is going on in my life. So
Right.
many things that many of them are in my control, in my hands, but some of them are not, right?
That's right.
By always doing my best, I can avoid self-judgment, regret, and guilt. I don't need to feel guilty for doing so good for 3 months and then I had a dip,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And it encourages me in this way to embrace my imperfections and strive for continuous improvement in a healthy way for myself,
Yes.
loving myself in the process.
And that's so much. We always get back to the loving yourself. And there are no classes on loving yourself. There are no classes on self-esteem. Uh, and yet there's so much that is going to bring you down. I gave a talk one time to an auditorium full of school teachers, and at that time it was going to be on Jin Shin and how you could tell by what fingers a child played with, you could tell what was going on in their life. For instance,
Yeah,
this finger is worry. Of course, we know what that finger is, anger, and this is sorrow, and this is how you perceive yourself. And this one is worry. When you watch a child and they're putting fingers in their mouth, you can tell pretty much what emotion that they are feeling most in their environment. And I started out at that time, there was this thing going around where everybody was uh, saying something really bad about you and then saying, not, and thinking that was going to eradicate the pain that it brought. So I had arranged. I love to play when I do talks. I'm childish. Okay, I'm childlike.
that's beautiful.
So I had arranged for the principal to. I had arranged for one of the teachers in the class to stand up and when I came on the stage and say, "Oh, that's a icky looking outfit you're wearing today," and everyone in the audience went like this, and I said, "Did you feel the impact of the words that were said?" Wasn't the words, it was the impact. And I said, every child that comes to you today may have as many as four parents because so many people are divorced. They have
Yeah,
siblings. Let's say just four siblings, maybe more. They have TV. They have all of these things that before they even walk into your class, they have had all this opportunity for someone to say, "Did you get your homework done? Are you wearing those barrettes today? They're mine. Uh, you can't do this after school." All of these things that are being impounded on this child before they sit down in your classroom.
Yeah.
All of the emotions. And there again, that impeccability with your speech.
Yeah.
We're not taught the power of the word. And
No.
then it brings on the judgment and the doubt and the punishments and all of these things. And let us just, scrub the brain. You know, let's
Exactly. And
let's
it
start
comes
all over.
to some it comes to something else. And we did a show about Mr. Emoto Masaru, right?
Oh,
Uh, the
absolutely.
the Japanese guy who froze water and could actually prove that how water respond
To
to,
vibration of words.
yes, and how we speak to it. And if we consider that we are made of so much water and liquid,
Yes.
that is a big key and clue to how we respond, even to self-talk, right? So it is immensely important.
Yes. So as simple as these little four agreements are, they allow you to become the authentic person that you really are. That moment that you come into this world, that beautiful soul is unique and it has its own reason for being here. And the
Yes,
people around it are here to gently guide it so it can learn how to be in the physical form. But we're not here to mold it to be an imitation of us. And this is where learning to inspire, learning to uplift are so important because people spend so much of their time in the negative. And to be able to teach ourselves to be loving ourselves, then we want to be kind to others.
yeah, and what you said before, how we speak to someone, if we put someone down, they are going to do better, right? I've actually encountered that. You could imagine how I reacted. I said, "No way, no way, no way. I don't take that."
And-
Um,
yeah. And I don't mean being false and saying things that are not true. But you can always find a way to say something that is uplifting rather than putting someone down. But you have to think, oh my, conscious mindfulness. What a conception. If people actually thinking before they speak. What an idea. Oh
what a
my.
beautiful idea.
you
And
know,
and one other thing here, we can actually express anything if we think before we talk.
exactly. And be honest with yourself and be honest with the other person. And if you learn to say things that are not pointing fingers at someone else, I didn't understand you. Uh, can you clarify this? Um, when when I hear things like that, it hurts.
Yes.
Saying these things and allowing people to understand how this is impacting you is very helpful too. And
Mm.
it's amazing. I
Not
see.
assuming that people understand how you receive it, right? But
Yes.
expressing it.
Yeah, because I've got my own movie playing, and I may have forgotten to give you the script. I did see this movie once that was really interesting, and the guy had just gotten divorced, and his friend says, "Well, you need to get out there again." He says, "Well, you don't understand." He says, "In a relationship, women come with their script, and if you go off script, and they don't give you the script. But if you go off script, then they get upset with you. But we don't know what it is that they really want. And
Exactly.
and that's the truth. And in a relationship, how many times do we assume that just because we live together at that particular moment, that person is going to know exactly what we're thinking? And this isn't fair to you or to them. And they
No, it's
tried their
not.
best, but then if it doesn't,
Yeah.
if it's not what you wrote on your script, it's not going to work. So give each other
Or
a
the
script.
sometimes it is the opposite as well, right? When
Yeah,
people they assume that they are going to act in a certain way to please someone else, right?
yeah,
But that's usually not going to work out well either, because they get disappointed because you don't respond in the way that they are reacting. And I have a good assumption here, so I want us to laugh a little bit because laughter is medicine.
yes.
So a great assumption about blue-eyed, blonde Swedish women. She's
Uh,
naive, she's a little bit stupid, and she's easy to catch. No way.
well, that is that assumption that every redhead has a fiery temper.
Exactly.
I'm as pleasant as they can come, uh, but I'm also a Taurus, and and but I am Ferdinand the bull, and I love to smell flowers, and I love to see beauty. And if you put a fence along one side of me, that'll be a nice fence. If you put another fence over there, that's incredible. You put another one in behind me, that's okay. It's just heaven help you if you put one in front of me. Then I might use the fury of a redhead and lower the horns and come after you. But assuming that and saying, well, I would never go out with that person because that's a blonde. She's stupid. I'd never go out with that person. She's a redhead. Uh, she's always going to
Yeah.
be angry all the time. You know, you've just
But
eliminated two
yes,
incredible
but
people.
but here's another. You can turn that around to blessing as well, right? If you realize that that person making those assumptions are showing more of themselves than actually what is
Exactly.
true. That's the blessing,
Yes,
right?
and not be stubborn and think that you are a woman and you can change his mind. You know.
When I was very young, I was into that arena and I thought that because that was how I was taught, right? But that's so long ago.
I know. Isn't it wonderful to get to the point where you really can just be you?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's it is a wonderful time. It is.
And the best part of being you um, is that you show yourself and then people can see, do they feel in alignment with you or not? And
Exactly.
or if they are trying to adapt, because that can happen too, right? But that's not going to be something that lasts forever.
And I would rather meet have people see who I really am, because who I really am is a much better version of who I would try and become for them.
Exactly. Because usually when we try to adapt to something, we are stepping into the boxes, society and family traditions, everything we have been
Yes.
taught, the programs, you could call them,
Yes.
right?
And the beauty about having lived life a little longer is that you go through those stages. And I often wonder, if I knew what I knew now, how my life would have been if I had been coming from this direction. But then I would have had the experiences that I had that led to finding my true self. So there is no good, there is no bad. There is just the experiences and how you perceive them and how you work with
Respond.
them, and
Yeah.
being willing and courageous enough to say, this isn't working for me, rather than, well, that's the way I am and that's what you're going to get. You know,
Exactly. And not trying to think, but I think both men and women many times think that, well, he or she is going to adapt. We're going to become, we step into relationship, we become one. No, that's not very good because we come in and we are remaining two, but we are feeling in alignment with each other. That means that sometimes we differ in opinions or ways we do things, but we can feel like completed in a different way because we can work
yeah.
together as a team. That's different.
And a real relationship is not one thought, it is having two different thoughts and coming to a third conclusion. It's working together rather than saying, well, I'm right, you're wrong, and this is the way it's going to be. But saying, these are the strengths that I have, these are the strengths that you have. Now let's put them together, because then the relationship is going to be even stronger. And
Yeah,
and that comes from not trying to compete, and even competing with yourself and saying, well, I'm not good enough, so I have to be better. And changing that to, I am going to be the best that I can be every day. And I know that best is going to keep getting better. Just
exactly.
changing the words,
Mm.
impeccable with your speech.
Yes.
See how it always just kind of, falls back in?
Everything comes around and fits with something else. So all these topics, 4 shows, you can find them at angelplaceonearth.com/upcoming dash pass. So the first one is be impeccable with your word, right? The
Yes.
second one is going to be, or has been, don't take anything personally, right?
Yes.
And last week's, which we added the highlights to this week because we made a very sweet and short show due to making assumptions about the internet, right? But
Yes.
anyway, that was don't make assumptions. And today we talked about always do your best. But I think because we come this far into the show, I'm making a joke now. I think we did our best, didn't we?
I think we really did. And there's just one thing I want to add. Uh, when I was growing up, there was a song that we used to sing. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily,
Oh,
merrily,
that's
merrily,
beautiful.
life is but a dream. Now, when you think about it, rowing your boat, what if, as we row our boat in life, we do it gently? We learn, we appreciate things, we see the curve, and we go with the flow, and where we need to get off, we get off, and so forth. But rowing your boat gently, but with merriment, merriment, because it is true. Life is a dream. However, you can always create a new dream if you're not
Yeah,
happy with the dream you're having.
exactly. And that is also coming back to the choices we talked about, right? Because we can always make new choices. And
Yes.
there are people that feel stuck and they say, well, I can't, I've chosen things that put me into this place, but there's still, we can always make new choices, right? We can always change things. It doesn't mean that we are really indeed stuck. If we think we are, it's our mindset, and with our mindset, we are going to be stuck. But we can always change anything.
And the beauty is, if you really start doing some looking into some of these great teachers that we have, you literally can change your physiology. Joe Braden has done, Joe Dispencio,
Dispensa?
excuse me,
Yeah.
Yes. Um, See, I just had a not my best, but that was my best at the moment. So, but he has literally proven scientifically that using the methods of the meditation that he does, and he has people literally that can see, that have been blind, that can hear, that can be changing Parkinson's, changing all kinds of things by allowing the brilliance of being totally human, the power that we have when we change our mind is change your mind and
Yeah,
change your dream.
yeah, exactly. Because it's that my take on it is that we come here. This is not really our home. We just come here. We incarnate here, and that's it. It's like taking a trip somewhere, traveling,
Yep,
right? But a lifetime, yeah, as a human being, that's a very long time. But on the other side, that's a blink of an eye,
it is.
basically, right?
It really is. Yeah.
But we have the power. We are back again to being infinite beings. We are that. So just name things also. And Joe Dispenza, yeah, I'm impressed by him. Very impressed.
Yes.
He has a lot of good things.
Yes, and then being pure human, living our divinity, and our divinity is our ability to be empathic and compassionate and to be able to see a situation and change it, you know?
Exactly.
So this is beautiful. All of the gifts that these great teachers are imparting with us, if you choose to make a difference, you will make a difference. No matter where you
Exactly.
are, what you're doing. And 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 when you see people that are coming from complete adversity, and somehow they didn't get that program, that they had to stay in that adversity, and some little spark within them said, no, this is what I'm supposed to be, this is what I'm supposed to be, and they kept living their dream, their soul mission, and you all have that ability. So
Every single one of us. And just want to mention, because you reminded me now when you talked about pure human, Greg Braden is coming out with a new book.
oh,
And he
absolutely.
actually, that is something really good to read and buy.
Yes.
It's called Pure Human, I think.
Pure
Yes,
human. Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Be-
once again here, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I want to give a heads up again for Corinne's two workshops. She's going to do one workshop, the four agreements, on February 23rd. She's going to do a couples play date on March 2nd. And this is going to be very soon, basically. So the first one, the four agreements, February 23rd, and the couples play date, March 2nd. It's all going to happen in Mesa, Arizona, at Corinne's place, healing place. That's wonderful. There are small groups, so you can connect with Corinne. You can find her at liquidenergyhealing.com, or you can call her at 480-250-1815, or email her at lqenergy@yahoo.com. And of course, you can find her with all her links as well, if that's easier for you, whatever route you want to take. Angelplaceonearth.com/Corinne Mooney with two O's, right? Um, but grab your spots now, because there are small classes and Corinne wants to keep them intimate. Yeah,
Yes.
that's why, right? So it's not going to
Yes.
be big, a lot of people and a lot of energy. It's going to be wonderful. It's a special, unique experience. Yes,
I love being able to intermingle with people and hear their comments and bring them and make them part of the class rather than just talking to them.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And yeah, and anyone could kind of, and I think that is our idea here, sitting and having conversations like this, because yeah, we always have a script. No, we never follow it, right?
never.
It's kind of handy when you want to copy and paste and share things. But that's basically about it. So, and we
Yes,
remember the topic for today because we have also a tendency to slide outside of the topic. But I think because in this spiritual field, it's everything is connected,
it
and one
is
thing leads to another. There are only different ways of expressing it, and
correct.
the four agreements are stunning. And no matter if we think that we are, we have been taught everything we already know. Yeah, we heard it all, but it's still like last week we assumed, didn't we? Right?
And while you were talking all by yourself, I was busy here trying to get my computer to bring it back up, and then all of a sudden it says no internet, and I go, well, I didn't do it this time.
Well, things happen in our world, and that's also coming to today's topic, right? We did our best,
We did our
and
best.
sometimes things are not. Seeing it with a sense of humor, right?
Yes,
Instead of taking it very, very, we didn't take it personally, did we? No.
not at all. Not at all. You know, I have had a
So,
wonderful time talking with you today. This has been wonderful.
yeah, it has been really great. It's always a pleasure. I really long to these conversations, to be honest with you. And yeah, we're going to talk again before we come on next week. Are we ready to wrap it up for today?
I think so. I think our best should go out with the best, and I'm assuming that you know how to say our and this is wonderful.
It's beautiful. And thank you, everybody. You have been watching Cosmic Sis-Stars show with Corinne and Anne, discussing the four agreements, part 4 of 4, plus highlights from the third, because we had a very short and sweet show last week. Today, we have been putting our effort and talking about always do your best, right? And what that means, not putting pressure on ourselves and a lot of things, but you can listen to the video and watch the replay if you catch us at this late stage, right?
Mhm.
So we go live for you every Wednesday with Cosmic Sis-Stars. Wednesdays in the US and Europe, and Thursdays in Australia in the middle of the night, very early morning, to be honest. Anyway, you can connect with us, find upcoming shows, past episodes, read articles, and find Corinne and myself at angelplaceonearth.com/cosmic guardians and facebook.com/cosmic guardians. And thank you for watching Cosmic Sister Show. And we see you next week. But I forgot something. Sorry. Next upcoming show here on Cosmic Guardians and Cosmic Sisters is going to be me and Corinne coming to you next week discussing all parts of the four agreements plus a summary. So we're going to go through it all again to kind of um, wove it together once again because it sounds extremely simple, but it's so powerful.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful discussion. And I assume that there are going to be things happening during the week because for us, when we are talking about things here, we do live them because it's like the universe is saying, okay, okay, guys, you're sticking your nose out here.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to test you.
Uh-huh.
If you are living, you're walking your talk, right?
That's right.
And thank you for watching us. And I say love, light, peace, and joy. And what do you say?
love, light, and laughter.
Oh, how beautiful. Bye.
Bye.